Well, guess we're starting.
Hello.
Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Hey guys.
We were just pre-gaming the video, and it popped on. So.
I guess it was time to start. I'm not feeling the traditional disclaimer today, so I'm just going to say no advisory required. We're going to discuss our relationship with our father because we just spread his ashes, which we waited 12 years to do, and it affected all of us in kind of a different way.
And we only have us two, like, our perspectives out of all the sips. My hand's, like, huge. Sorry, I got so distracted.
There's an Always Sunny thing about it. Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Charlie's uncle has this thing about his hands, and
Yeah.
when he takes pictures, he'll have people with bigger hands put their hands over his hands. It's like weird.
Oh, really?
Totally weird.
That's funny.
That looks like my hands. It's strange. Anyways, we be getting off subject a lot. It's funny though. So yeah, like she's saying, this is just going to be our perspective of the situation because we had our whole family together and it was just our family and it was bittersweet.
It was. We had a funeral for Dad probably about 9 months after he passed. Like, part of him was buried with his father's family, and then this time it was more his mother's family. So our dad got 2 funerals.
His father's family that he never really had much of a relationship with in his adult life, and his mother's family who he had honestly for the most part walked away from. We met all these people after he passed.
Mm-hmm.
Our blood family got a hold of them on our own terms, and I mean really we had to hunt people down, and we had help from you know, like our adopted mom helped us.
She actually found his father for us, and luckily he was still alive, so we got to meet him and got to have a relationship with him. We had him for 8 years, and then he passed.
We were fortunate there. It was able to create some perspective for us on what went wrong with him and our father's relationship, and you know why we were never able to have a relationship, and then we got to have a relationship, you know, and having those understandings and that perspective beforehand and being able to do it as adults, like.
Yeah, our dad literally never talked about his mom and dad.
Yeah.
We did not know them.
There was a lot of lament.
Yeah, and even I'd ask, our mom would take us to see our grandparents near Chicago.
Yeah.
And anytime we drive past the city our grandfather lived in, she would tell us, like, your grandfather lives here somewhere. And so anytime we drove past there, I would just remember, like, oh, my grandfather lives here somewhere. Like, didn't know his name, anything about him, other than that Dad didn't have a relationship with him.
Pretty well. There was always a general curiosity there. You know, we reached out just because we wanted to know.
So, some backstory on that. I'd asked Grandpa, like, you know, what went wrong, and it was because our dad was an addict, is what he told me, and that he had told Dad he didn't want any of that around his home. So they didn't speak after that. And when we found our grandfather, he didn't know that our dad had passed away either. So it was like a big thing for him to hear that, and then a big thing for him to hear that he had other grandchildren.
He wasn't even fully aware that all of us existed. I think he said he knew about me, maybe you.
No, he knew about Mandy. And then looking through his photo albums after he had passed, there was a photo of, I think, you, me, and John.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I don't know if he, like, was told about it years ago but didn't remember, or, like, thought that, you know, he would have no relationship with us. But, like, I don't know.
And he did and he didn't, honestly. At the time that he had this conversation with us about, you know, why he and Dad never spoke, he mentioned, you know, he was an addict, so, and then at the time, I was an addict, and I was like, all right, run on, man. And then Julia.
So I actually had a relationship with him. I went to see him, I think once every month was what I tried. For the first couple years, I didn't. And then one day he was like, I would like for you to make more time for me. And I was like, that sounds really good. So I told him, you know, I'll start seeing you once a month. And I kept that up for the last 2 years that he was alive. And we got on the subject of addiction again. So he brought up Dad and how, you know, he didn't keep a relationship with him. And I told him, you know, Chris is an addict. I'm like, but I will never leave him. I'm like, he has nobody if he doesn't have me.
This is where we really, really broke some generational curses, I would
Yes.
say, because in the past, our family has made it okay to just rid themselves of each other and not be unconditionally supportive, which is
Mhm.
something that we all do.
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters are close no matter what happens in our lives, no matter what we go through. We don't leave each other's side. Like, and even if there's times where maybe we're a little frustrated with each other for a couple
Yeah.
of months, we come back, we get it together. We know that we will always be there. We will always love each other, and that's something we've created for ourselves. And I see more in our generation
Yeah.
than anything else that
We're waking up to realizing when people have an addiction or people have, mental health problems, that, like, look at their past, look at what they've been through, and look at where they're hurting. A lot of hurt people.
Yeah.
And luckily, like, with us and the siblings, like, even though Chris had his addiction, Chris is also the one that pulled John and I out of that situation with our father and put us in foster care so we would have a better chance at a future. And, like, Chris is the one who looked after us. Chris is the one that had found Dad, like, with his attempts at taking his life. All of that he had been through, and being Dad's right-hand man, like, he had no other role model. So of course there would be, I can see why the addiction happened.
Yes.
And I'm like, but my brother means the world to me. Like, I'm not leaving him.
Trauma is the gateway drug. I will die on that hill. Trauma. That's what causes addiction. That's what leads people to seek out ways to escape from reality more than anything else in this world, is not dealing with things that have happened or not
Yeah.
knowing how to, and it's so
Yeah.
easy to just escape, to just get away, to not worry about it, to not think about it. But then when you come back to life, it's so much to fix. And that's part of why people stick with addiction. That was my problem for a long time. It's like, there's so much, when I have to think about it again, it's going to be so difficult to put everything back together, so you try to slowly, a little bit, and that's why you have relapses. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot. It is. And it was difficult coming back. So to get back into it a little bit, before our grandfather passed on, I had escaped the clutches of my long time, addiction. And just in time, I had a few visits with him and was able to develop that meaningful relationship that led me to, peace with his passing, at least as most, to the point that I feel like I was supposed to have.
Yeah. And I think getting to know us gave Grandpa the ability to pass peacefully. So what's interesting is he had COPD, and he went through this horrible phase with it, and he was actually in a nursing home by his choice. I would have taken care of that man, but he wanted to be where his wife was previously. So the last time we had seen him was the Monday before Labor Day in 2018, and we had brought him some food because he hated the food there. And Chris stayed behind a minute because Grandpa wanted to talk to him, and he presented him with an envelope that had the money in it that Chris spent to cremate our father. And he's like, it's not your job to bury my son, it's my job.
Happened when I was in college, and it took every penny that I had, but that fell on me at that point in my life, and that was right before my addiction began.
He was graduating high school and had saved up money, like his savings account was finally something, and then Dad passed away, and then the money went to Dad. But Grandpa presented him with that, and you want to talk about that? It's your story more than mine.
I mean, I don't feel like I have to dig too deep into that. It was nice, and it put some things to rest, and it kind of showed me that, somebody cared. And that was nice, because my whole life it was just a burden on my back, and I'd carried all this weight for such a long time. That was like the beginning of me finding peace with this whole situation. So now I've processed things, I've put an end to my addiction, and now I'm kind of coming out of this phase that I was in for a really long time at this point, and figuring things out. I'm getting back into life and trying to progress myself and work on myself again, getting things together. And now my grandfather, right before he passes, is like, I'm sorry that you had to go through this. I'm sorry you
Yeah.
had to deal with this. The least I can do, this is what it cost you. Was it the same? No, but it made up. At that point, that was, there were emotions there too. I had to process feeling worthy of it,
Yeah.
because I never had somebody look out for me or try to, take care of something. Like I'd always just put all the problems on my back. So
he did that to me too. So this was when Chris was a bit more in his addiction, but we had lived together at this apartment, and we were moving out, and I was like, I don't know what to do about last month's rent. He's like, don't worry about it, don't pay it. And I was like, okay. And then my landlord started calling me, and I'm like, I don't like this. And then I started, like, I didn't know anything about a credit score, so I was like, this might ruin my credit score. So I actually went to the bank and I got a small loan, and I paid my rent. And I went to see Grandpa like a week later, and I told him, like, I almost made a really bad decision, but I caught myself, and this is what I did. And he was like, you know what, I'm really proud of you, like, you did the right thing there.
you
So
did.
then the next time I went to go see him, he handed me an envelope with $500. He's like, I'm going to pay this much of it, and you're going to pay the rest. And he was like, I don't want you to tell anybody about this. It's a secret. And, like, I did keep it to myself for a while, but, like, that moment was, like, a huge moment in my life, because it was just, like, this unconditional, genuine love. And instead of shaming me or, like, telling me, like, what was wrong with you, he was like, you did the right thing. Here's some help. And I was like, it was just incredible. It was incredible.
And honestly, having that and not having our father there for all those years, I feel like we were, in our own way, able to learn the hard way, which everybody has to do. And we were allowed to do it to a certain point with grace, because when you just have your brothers and sisters looking out for each other, it's different. We didn't have that parent coming down, backhand, and like, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't. To a certain point we did, but we didn't consistently make the same mistakes over and over and over again. We were able to learn naturally and fluidly, and that was a really good way for him to tell you, kind of pat you on the back, like, you learned yourself, here's a little bit of help. It's like a reward for learning how to do the right thing, which really, I think, worked out
for both of us.
Yeah, for everybody.
Yeah.
In one way or another. Like, when I was a kid, I thought, I would reach a certain age and I would just be like, oh, now I'm a grown up, now I'm an adult. I know all the things. But then, even as I still get older, I more and more realize that adults are just kids with experience.
Yeah.
So many people have no idea what they're doing, and it's still kind of scary to me. But
I feel much more prepared now. Like, 27 has been good for me. And I feel like not a scared little kid anymore. Working through my trauma and all that, I'm much more prepared to handle things with a logical mind, emotional mind that's balanced.
My emotions and my logic don't always line up in balance, but I allow logic to take hold, and I'm trying to train my emotions and teach them that, these triggers, I need to let go of and lay them to rest. So when my brain has these freakouts, it's like, no, you need to be afraid, you need to freak out about this, is bad, and my logical mind is saying, no, dude, like, literally, you just need to calm down, keep it real. I remind my emotional mind to just see how it plays out, and that's how you need to get used to these things, and that's how I'm training my emotions to be more on par with logic, because by the end, my logical mind is correct, and no, everybody in the world doesn't hate me, but you just need to settle down and kind of let things happen, let things flow. And I liked our conversation earlier about how we're both in kind of a flow state right now. Life is just happening. We're calming down a little bit on the self-work. We're not perfect. Not necessarily even the best versions of ourselves, maybe, but trying to just ride out life a little bit and let things fall into place. And when we're both on the same page like that, it always kind of is just...
It's nice.
It brings about a peace,
to
where you're not so worried about it, just letting life happen. which we've never been able to do. It's always been the next challenge, the next challenge, the next challenge. Well, we're both at kind of more comfortable spots, I think, right now. And it's okay when everything's not completely crystal clear. You don't always have to know what the next step is 100%. You know,
it's letting the universe flow, whatever comes to you. You know, you got what's in front of you.
It's comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's kind of allowing me some relaxation that I'm not used to having in my life.
I'm in a good space. But with releasing Dad's ashes, we did that last Sunday, so about a week ago. We had our aunt, our cousin, their spouses, and all 5 of us younger siblings there. And drove 2 hours away and had a little ceremony. And our 2 youngest siblings didn't ever really meet him. I think Tyler had spoken to him one time that he remembers, and then Brittany not at all.
He passed away early 2010. So Tyler was 10 and Brittany was 9.
Yeah.
But they hadn't seen him since they were 3 and 4, maybe.
But I thought it was good that they were able to be there, because they weren't there for. We didn't have contact with them whenever we did his first funeral. So it was nice to do this with them, and we were spreading his ashes where he wanted them spread. So we were able to honor him with that too. It was very emotional, and I was not okay the first couple of days afterwards. I was having a really difficult time with it. A very violent memory came back of a situation, like really when our life changed, when his life changed. He was beaten pretty badly in front of us, and I was stuck in that loop of what I had seen of it, and I was able to get out of it, but I just got very angry because that's what changed the course of so many people around him, of his life, how that affected all of us to this day.
Everybody. I never fully processed that beating. I'm not even going to call it a fight, that beating. I never gave myself a lot of time to think about it, because it was just, that's how it is now. You know, things are different, things have changed. Is somebody at fault? Is anybody at fault? Is everybody at fault? Like, I don't know, but I know that this is where life is going, and I have to focus on the now, because things started happening very, very fast in a downward direction, and it's kind of where who we are today began.
Yeah.
You know, the beginning. So, like, we did experience, for a while at least, a normal childhood with parents in the house and, you know, maybe a broken home and a blended home, but
that was like, but he was pretty stable at that point. It was the most stable that he ever was. He had his own company, and like, we had a home.
To the point that we were like middle school age. So
no, you maybe. I was 7 when this happened.
You're 7?
Yeah. Because I don't know if Brittany was born yet, but I know I think Tyler was. And yeah, I don't know. So you were middle school age. And then after that, I can't remember 8 or 9. I can remember 10. But yeah, that's when everything changed. Because he had a brain injury.
He was no longer able to take care of us. He wasn't able to work, and my hard-working father that I had always seen provide for himself, his family, for everybody, and nobody could stop him. Nobody could put him down. Like, he was no longer that person anymore. So now we're adjusting to no longer having stability, and, you know, he would still talk the same talk, but he wouldn't follow through on any of it, you know, and that was really hard to process and hard to adjust and hard to learn through myself, because the strongest man I'd ever known in my life was a bum now, you know, and what do you do with that? Like, you know, I still have to live my childhood, but now we don't have a home. You know, we don't always have food in the fridge. Like, he became an addict. He became addicted to this medicine that they gave him that we were under the impression was going to help him. And, you know, what's happening? You know, where is home? Where are we going to sleep tomorrow? Like, it just happened so fast over the course of 2 or 3 years, and it sounds like
Yeah.
maybe we would have had time to adjust, but there's no adjusting to that. Like,
No, it was just one day. He was the dad that had me sitting at the table and wouldn't let me leave till I ate my broccoli. And then the next day, he was the dad that was taking us to live at sketchy houses.
hotel rooms,
Yeah.
begging church. He would have me go in and give a sob story to the pastor of a church, like, you have nowhere to stay tonight. They'd put us up in a hotel for 3 or 4 days, and and it's, where are we going to sleep tomorrow? I don't know. Is dad going to do something about it? I don't know. I better do what I can.
Yeah.
Like, it was freaky. It was scary. It wasn't something that we really knew how to handle. We just had to make the most of it.
We just survived through all of it, and that's why, like, to where we are now, after high school, like, we just survived all of that. We didn't experience a lot of it. I'm pretty sure I disassociated most of it. And then when I got in my 20s and I started seeing how, like, my relationships were ending and my friendships, how they were going, and I had not good relationships with my adoptive parents or my mother, and I'm like, something's got to give. So then I started seeking therapy and found out I have PTSD, and here we are.
Allowing myself to enjoy life is never something that I've been able to do, because I'm always, and I still have this problem to a certain point. I've gotten better about it, but I still have a lot of trouble trusting anybody.
Yeah.
Because
what's their intention?
Right, yeah. Like, I've never been able to just say, okay, life is good right now. I'm just going to have fun. I'm just going to enjoy some things. For the first time in my life, I'm reaching one of those points to where I'm able to accept that it's okay to a certain point to just do me, try to enjoy being alive a little bit, and not be so worried about everything all the time. And that's where it comes from. Because as a child, I didn't have a choice. It was worry about everything, worry about everybody. If you make somebody mad, then, everything could change and really bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
You have to walk on eggshells all the time. And I've done that my entire life, and I'm tired of it being up to somebody else whether or not I'm happy.
Yeah.
So, I just don't want to seek that approval anymore. Like, I don't want to have anyone's approval for me to, I'm not a bad person. I don't do bad things that harm other people, I know with my addiction I did that, and I didn't even realize I was doing it, but that gave me enough perspective. I've learned through these things, and isn't it our time to enjoy life a little bit?
I think so.
I think we've grown and learned so much through everything that we just talked about that, I think we're both slowly figuring out how to do that. Do you still feel bad about it?
No, not anymore.
I'm getting there.
I'm at a point where I don't have to second guess myself all the time now, because I have the tools and I've done a lot of research and I've been to therapy and I've learned how to handle my PTSD for the most part. Sometimes, like this past week, it swept me away, but I have enough now to where I don't feel the need to constantly work on myself. If something comes up, then I'm like, okay, this is something, but I'm able to enjoy the mundane life things. It's quite nice.
That is good. That is very good. Making progress, but I won't. And, I've always had this idea in my head that one day I would reach this point of perfection where everything was just... And I think that's one of the most difficult things. I don't know if everybody's taught that or if everybody has that belief. Probably not, that, you have to get to a certain point to be happy. But, like, that living in the moment and trying to just enjoy things day by day, not everything needs to be so scheduled and planned out all the time.
It's the journey, not the destination. Because what's all of our destinations?
Death.
We're all going to die someday.
Being at peace with that is...
Like... I'm really cool with just enjoying these moments that are in front of me. And I want to be present. I don't want to be stuck in the past. I don't want to be stuck in the future. I want to look at what's ahead of me and be grateful for what I do have. Because what I do have now is a lot better than what it was in the past. And who knows? What if it's better than what's in the future? What if oh my God, right now is the future? I don't know. Time is weird.
and making the most.
Yeah. I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for all my friends, my job, like grateful for everything that I've helped to build.
And that's why I try to enjoy it right now, because as of right now, we're all in one place, pretty close. The farthest away is 20 minutes, from each other. And I know you get a little overwhelmed sometimes, and we both have really busy schedules. It's difficult to find time for even people that we want to see every once in a while, friends.
Yeah.
And I don't really get much time to go out and do anything. I stay very caught up with, my work schedule just keeps it to where I'm at work now, and then I get a couple hours, and I'm at work now, and then I'm asleep. And as soon as I wake up from sleep, I have to go to work, and then couple hours. It becomes very difficult to fit our schedules together where we can see each other. But, that's why, like, I try to reach out to you, and then sometimes you get a hold of me, and we do the best we can to make time for each other because, like, right now, we're all here. And that's something that I feel I definitely don't take for granted. I enjoy that, and I try to, any chance we get, spend time with each other, even though life is
life. For sure. Well, guys, I think Chris and I are going to go grab some dinner. So, thanks for tuning in.
We might get back to some more on the perspective of spreading ashes and how...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, we can do that in another video, too. But I would really like at some point to discuss how all 5 of us, every sibling, had, like, a different...
Why don't we bring them together and do it that way?
Oh, man, that'd be so cool if we could have all 5 of us and just talk about... this was my experience. Are you watching? This is my experience.
Yeah.
Hopefully. It'd be cool if they were, but...
We can bring it up to them.
That was something that was really interesting that I definitely do want to discuss.
How we each had a different perspective on it.
Yeah. And how we were all at peace with that. Nobody got mad, like, oh, what do you mean this is how you felt about it? Like, we communicate so well in a manner that, it's okay if you have these ill feelings. It's okay if, you feel this way and, nobody's hurt by anybody else's experience. And that's not something I see with everybody else all the time, especially working in a bar and talking to the people that I do. There's so many families that just are like, oh, well, you said this about mom and I can't, have a relationship with you anymore. Like, they just don't have that understanding.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something worth going over. I feel like we should definitely do that.
We all understood that that's what Dad wanted, and we abided by his wishes. So, I don't know. It's all of our dad.
For somebody that wrote off his family the way he did, teaching us that family is all you have. It was strange, but, it worked out. It was almost like a divine guidance that gave us the most important thing that we will ever have in our lives, I fully believe.
Yeah.
Which is unconditional love and support.
Definitely.
So, we will get back.
Yeah.
With that.
I'm hungry.
I, too, am hungry.
Let's go get some grub, bub.
Not from the hub. All right. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate you listening to our experience. And that's what we got.
Yeah.
Much love to you all.
Bye, guys.
Until next time.
It's still going.